Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Wednesday morning. I have a special treat today. My guest on Creative Lifescaping is Rachel Druckenmiller, Master of Science, founder and speaker and facilitator at Unmuted, which I just love that name. Rachel is on a mission, and I dare say she's doing it very successfully, to humanize the workplace by igniting resilience, connection, engagement, and compassion in organizations, associations, and their leaders and teams. She's recognized as the #1 health promotion professional in the US in 2015, a 40 under 40 game changer in 2019, and one of the Daily Record's leading women of 2020. Rachel is a national thought leader in the field of well-being and employee engagement, which is why I'm so thrilled that she agreed to join us today. She's known for her refreshing, dynamic, and relatable approach. She has reached tens of thousands of people through her in-person and virtual facilitation learning experiences as a speaker, facilitator, and trainer. She's worked with organizations like Citizens Bank, Adventist Health, I always say this wrong, Deloitte. I actually talked to them about a job and I was like, how do you say your name of your company? Which is not a great thing to say in an interview. Sherwin-Williams, American Heart Association. She's been published on Thrive and mindbodygreen. Rachel, one of the things I love about Rachel is her science and analytical background. This is one of the reasons she's on the podcast as well. She has a master's degree in health science and a bachelor's degree in psychology. She's a licensed thriving workplace culture coach and health coach. She's also the founding member of the international nonprofit Global Women for Wellbeing. So, she has lots of time to come on and join me. So thank you. And please welcome Rachel.
Hi, this is going to be so fun. I'm really excited about it.
I am too. I'm so glad you were able to make the time to join me today.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. I mean, the podcast is for people who feel like they're not creative, who maybe want to reconnect with some part of their creativity. And so I'm curious about what motivated you to study psychology, then health education. So link the dots backwards for me.
Well, I guess a lot of it as I grew up watching Oprah, and my dad always had Tony Robbins CDs sitting around our house. My parents are both entrepreneurs. And so I've always been fascinated by human behavior and just understanding people and why we do what we do and what motivates us and what energizes us and what makes us feel alive and how can we optimize ourselves. I feel like I had those messages, kind of imbued in me at a very young age. And so I guess it sort of felt natural that those of us that are really curious about understanding ourselves, that self-study, end up studying psychology. People that read all the self-care books in middle school and high school are like, let me go study psychology. So that we can frankly understand our own psyche better and then ultimately understand other humans better. And so, that really led me, and just wanting to understand, I've always been a curious person and I want to understand things. And so for me, and I love learning, one of my greatest passions and values is a love of learning. I've always loved to read. I've always loved school. I've always loved to just understand something at a deep level. And so I think all those things collectively got me to the point where I ended up studying psychology and health science and ended up in the well-being industry for the past 16 years.
That's fantastic. And you talk on your website about an experience you have as a teen living life muted. So how did that affect your trajectory towards public speaking? Because it seems, pretty contrary to that whole feeling of being muted.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I avoided, let's see, what did I avoid? I avoided debate classes. I avoided any type of public speaking classes in high school and college. I loved singing from the time I was 5, but I did not join the choir. I went to an all-girls high school, and we had this incredible choir where they would wear these long black gowns and pearl necklaces, and they'd, sing Christmas songs and they would do all of these things. And I would sit in this big auditorium with hundreds of people, just wishing I was up there, but I was too afraid to have my voice heard. There was something very vulnerable about people hearing you sing, because they could critique it and say it's not good enough, or, maybe they're going to say all the things I'm saying in my head. And you had to try out. And because you had to try out, it means you had to be solo and heard by everybody. And that was so paralyzing for me that I just didn't join it. I used to, if I thought I was singing too loudly, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. And if I thought I was singing too loudly, I would lip sync. I'm not kidding. I would be in church and I would lip sync, which is absurd to me. For someone who loves singing, why would you do that? But that's what I did. So for me, it was just this, it was, I'd say my senior year of high school is when I first started to like break open my shell a little bit. And I took voice lessons, my senior year of high school, mainly because I wanted to learn to sing better for my audience of one. It's not like I was performing anywhere. Like I was like, I just want to sing better. And I remember my voice teacher, Mrs. Vietz, said, well, all my students, what song are you going to sing at the year-end recital? And I said, oh, I'm not going to be singing a song at the year-end recital. Sorry, did I miss the memo? And she was like, well, all my students do. So eventually I picked one. I picked Angel by Sarah McLachlan, which is, first of all, a beautiful, haunting, but really sad song for like a 17-year-old to be singing.
Yeah.
And that was not fun for me at all. I had all nervous, like negative energy getting onto that stage to sing it at the recital. I couldn't wait to be done. I felt like my jaw was locked. And so it's not like I had a track record of like, I was in drama. People think that. No, I was not in drama. I was not in choir. I avoided these things. And it wasn't until college, really, that I lived in Spain. I studied abroad in southern Spain for a semester. And the people there are so alive, and I was never alone. And there was just this vibrancy to life there that I came back and I was different. I was a different person. And that's when I started trying out for solos and gospel choir. And then I started actually going as a professor in college to speak and present research I had done at regional conferences as an undergrad. And I kind of liked it a little bit. And I was like, I thought you hated this, And so I realized that if I was talking about something I was passionate about, that I believed in, that I aligned with, that it wasn't as hard to speak. And so I started speaking in my job really in 2009. I got to do leadership trainings. I'm like, who the heck? I'm like 26 years old. Like, what do I know about leadership training? But I was like, okay, they're asking me. So I kind of assumed that because I was asked to do something that I was qualified as opposed to the opposite. And then I took a professional speaking course 3 years ago, and that accelerated me to launch a speaking business. And
I think we're both HPS students.
Yes.
For public speaking. Yeah. Yes. So fantastic organization.
Amazing.
Okay. So much there. First, I'd like to talk about your inner critic. And that's what holds most people back from creativity, is this idea of your fear of judgment of yourself. Am I going to be terrible? And then fear of judgment of others. And it's interesting that you said that going to Spain really changed that for you, because in the field of creativity, international travel is one of the catalysts for creativity. So I love that you kind of got over that. It sounds like you were in an environment where people cared less about what other people thought. Is that true? That's kind of what I was getting from what you're saying.
Oh my gosh. Like, I remember little things. Like, it was my first month that I was there, and people would like, I was so studious, right? Like, come to class, never miss a class, get straight A's on everything. Like, I was a little nuts. And I remember the first couple weeks we were there, people would tell the professor, oh, hey, I'm going to be in France for like 3 days next week. So like, I'm going to miss class. It's like, what is this? Like, this is so different. Like, you wouldn't do that in the States. You wouldn't be here like, hey, I'm going to go to Colorado next week, so I won't be in school for a couple of days. It's not spring break. I'm just not going to be here. And I remembered just like this. It's funny. I haven't really ever talked about that, but I had this moment of thinking to myself, like, this is really focused on living life. It's not just focused on performing, which had been so much of my MO the whole time.
Oh.
Like, of just
this idea of achievement, like achievement is the pinnacle.
That's the pinnacle. And I realized these people were actually living their lives, and they were having fun, and they were coming to class, but they were really experiencing things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, maybe this is a part of it that I've been missing, and the social element, it's such a social culture. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. The music and the dancing and the food and the laughter, and it's loud and the colors are bright. I mean, Spain is a marvelous place. You went to Portugal and Belgium, went all over southern Spain, and you can't help but be affected by it. Mm-hmm. You can't help but be affected by it. And so I really think that me being a part of that experience, where I knew one person in my city who came from my college, who was studying, with a different group. But I really did. I had to kind of forge my own path in a place. I'd never lived away from home before. I had only ever lived in the same town my whole life, in the same
Mhm.
house my whole life. So there was just such novelty, and novelty
Mhm.
I would stimulates creativity,
Yeah.
right?
It's one. So I have an acronym, which is what kind of the basis of my book coming out is dance. So the five things: daydream, ambiguity, novelty, curiosity, and editing later. So like travel, because it sounds like if you hadn't gone to Spain, you wouldn't know life any different. You wouldn't know that life could be a different way, which sounds like that catalyzed your confidence to be creative and
Yeah.
just say, screw it, I'm going to just do it because it's something in me. I don't have to worry about what other people think so much. These people clearly don't, right?
They for sure don't. I mean, like, it's just, they really don't. There's just that self-consciousness I didn't feel.
Mhm.
And I really am so, and I almost didn't go, because I wasn't somebody who did that, right? I'm not somebody, nobody in my family had been out of the country before. But everybody I talked to, especially adults, people that were like 20 years older than me, were like, you will regret if you don't do this.
Yeah.
Like, I regret that I didn't study abroad when I was younger. I regret that, and you don't want to regret this. And I was so afraid I was going to miss out. Like, we don't take chances because we're afraid we're going to miss out on the very predictable life that's probably going to stay the same.
Yes.
Like the guy that I was
The
into.
complacency of comfort, right?
Absolutely. And like
Yeah.
there was a guy that I was really into that I was hoping would be my boyfriend, and I didn't want to leave him, and
Mm.
sure enough he dated somebody else within like a month of me being gone. But then when I came back, I met the guy who I've now been with for, 15 years, so I'm married to. So it all worked out.
Yeah, it's hard to see that though when we're in it. And what I'm curious about is when you came back with this new, zest for life and confidence, did you have any obstacles? Did you say, this is what I'm doing? And then have like, oh, maybe I shouldn't because I'm back here in the US. Maybe I shouldn't do this here.
But I think a couple things I feel like shifted for me. I would say one is that I talk about confidence, just my ability to like navigate the world. Like
Mhm.
that I could get, I made it for 4 months in a country where my first language was not the predominant language, with people I did not know,
Mhm.
learning how to navigate transportation, learning how to navigate customs and ways of doing things, and to travel internationally. I mean, to your point, I really built up this sense of inner confidence of really, I think, contributing to my sense of agency of that
Mhm.
I can influence, things in a more powerful way. And when I came back, I remember it was a Thursday night in February. It's 2005. And they were doing solo tryouts for the gospel choir concert for the spring. I was in gospel choir because you didn't have to try out. So that's why I was in it. There's like 80 people. No one's going to hear me anyway. Like, very low risk. So I'd been in that before I left. And when I came back, we were doing tryouts. I was like, I hear other people sing. And I'd be like, I think I'm at least that good. Like, having taken voice lessons, I had recordings of myself, and I'm like,
Mhm.
enough people have told me I have a pleasant voice. I'm gonna wait till everybody's gone. So some people did their solos with people. I was like, forget that. So I waited till everybody was gone, and then I went to the director and the assistant director, and I was like, can I try out for one of these solos? And I did, and I went to the microphone. I remember standing in the front of this empty, it was a chapel, this huge empty chapel, singing to nobody really. And I stood at the microphone, I closed my eyes, and I let her rip, I let it out. And I remember Eric Bird, who's the gospel choir director, is this incredible jazz musician. He gets up from the piano at a certain point, I don't even know when, and he like knocked over a music stand near him. And he goes, "Where did that come from?"
We got
And
chill. I got a little chills, right? It's from you. It's from you expressing yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that's powerful.
it was a risk I'm really glad I took. And then I had solos every semester thereafter. My best friend had me sing with the band at her wedding 7 years ago. Music is how my husband and I connected. So I'm like, we don't realize that like us not expressing ourselves and us not releasing and unleashing our creativity doesn't just hurt us. Like it limits our ability to connect with and to positively influence and to impact another person or a group of people.
Mhm.
And when we frame it that way, it's like it's selfish for us to not share a thing that we've been given as a gift
Mhm.
with other people, you know?
Yeah, and I think as a speaker, I mean, at HPS and other people have mentioned, it's not about you. Like people go often on stage, whether it's speaking or something else, to be good. And
Right.
once you shift that and say, I'm here to be in service of the audience and connect with people, I mean, that's where the gold is. And like for me, I don't sing, I do stand up comedy as my creative outlet. And people think that's, terrifying. But it's kind of like what you said with you objectively think like, is it terrifying? Because I'm not going to die, right? Like, why is it terrifying? Because I have this outdated evolutionary survival mechanism not to be excluded from the tribe. But
Wow.
we have big brains, so we can influence that, which is what you did when you were like, I'm at least that good.
Yeah.
I just want to say for people who are joining us late, I'm having a great conversation with Rachel Druckenmiller, and we are talking about creativity and resilience. And so let's talk a little bit about creativity and well-being and resilience. So do you see a connection between your creativity or other people's creativity and building resilience and well-being in the workplace, which is, your expertise zone?
100%. I
Oh,
mean,
and I'm just going to throw up your LinkedIn so people can
sure.
find you on LinkedIn. They
Thanks.
probably can because you're a speaker. I'm still figuring out all this tech stuff.
Yeah, that's okay. You've got it. You're nailing it. It's awesome. I mean, creativity to me is really just like thinking of new ways of doing things and making connections between things that are seemingly not connected. And so I think creativity plays a tremendous role. I mean, even just in how I approach the industry, like I'm constantly questioning, could there be a better, different way of doing this? And for instance, when I started in the industry in 2006, the focus was on like Fitbits or like
Oh,
not even Fitbits, like step track pedometers, wearing pedometers, giving everybody apples, making sure they're drinking water, and like everyone get your biometric screenings done.
yeah.
And from the get-go, there was something deep inside of me that was like, this cannot be all there is. Like this, we have to have a much broader discussion. So I was, even from a young age, early in my career, thinking through what are different things we could do that other people aren't doing. And I helped to get our company recognized as like a top workplace in Baltimore by the Wellness Council of America as a healthy company. We won American Heart Association awards. We won all different kinds of awards and recognition. Then ultimately, that's part of how I got that recognition as the number one health promotion professional in the U.S. is because I was doing things fundamentally differently, talking about integrative health and functional medicine at a time when not a lot of people were talking about that, and how to integrate it and how to focus on a more holistic model of well-being that honored the importance of social, emotional, and mental health, which physical health was so much of the focus for so long. And so I think my propensity toward being creative and asking questions and wondering, well, what could be, or what might make this more fun, or how might we put this in place in a way that gets people excited. Like, here's a fun example. I'll give you something. We would do surveys and we would ask our people, what's something like fun that we could do? And the prompt we used was, wouldn't it be cool if? So we asked people, like, wouldn't it be cool if, and we let them fill in the blank. Somebody said, wouldn't it be cool if we had a healthy ice cream treat on a hot summer day? And I was like, that would be cool. How do we do that? So I know that there's a machine called a Yonana's machine, which you can shove frozen fruit into to make frozen yogurt, basically.
Yeah.
So I was like, we can make a healthy ice cream treat. We'll make ice cream out of fruit. And then we had people bring like different toppings that were like berries or almonds or shredded coconut or whatever. And we would do we called it YOLO, make your own froyo. So it was like a yummy make your own frozen yogurt event. And like people loved it. We did this every year. My hands would be like totally frozen by the end of it, but people loved it. It was just like, what's a different way we could do something? And so that's what really helped me stand out in the industry, is because I was not willing to be complacent and just accept what people told me wellness was. And I wanted to do things differently. And that's really, I think, what helped to propel me and helped get some, notice for what I was doing.
I love that. YOLO for froyo. So it sounds like your creativity was instrumental in you advancing the cause of wellness within your company, but also for recognition for yourself.
Yeah, and industry-wide too. I mean, like I, was able to put just certain things on the map and have conversations, whether it was on a podcast or somebody's webinar, just talking about here's things we're doing differently, talking with our clients, here's things we're doing differently. So to feel like I could help be a voice to help, even shape the corporate wellness industry was really energizing for me. And I think when it comes to our building our own resilience, I mean, so much of resilience is really looking for creative ways to adapt and adjust when things don't go as planned and when our stability and our center gets thrown off. Like, okay, well, that didn't work. What else might we try? And I don't know how you are genuinely resilient without having a little bit of creativity guiding it. I don't know.
Well, because if you do the same thing all the time, it's not really very resilient, I guess. That's just, well, maybe it is. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
Do the same thing
That
over and over again.
For you, right?
Insanity. Insanity is probably a better word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what I love about creativity is that it's stepping into that uncertainty and that possibility of failure and moving forward anyway. And then the resilience to me comes in when you pick yourself up and do it again, or continue to share your voice and continue to sing or to do comedy or whatever it is that you express yourself with. And I feel like that's kind of like a muscle memory that you can build to use in other places. And there is some amazing, I'm interviewing Karen Fuster, who runs a company, and she does a lot of research on tolerance of ambiguity and how that's so related to, how that's so correlated with resilience, but as well as creativity. And I feel like it's this like trifecta of tremendousness, resilience, creativity, tolerance of ambiguity, and how do we build those so that we feel more confident stepping into that place of potential failure. And, in a workplace, psychological safety is so important. What do you think about how does creativity and resilience factor into the workplace these days? Like how important is going to be for jobs in the next 5 years?
Oh my gosh. I mean, tremendously. Like companies have to rethink how they do things. I mean, companies inherently have to be creative right now if they're going to make it, right? Because if the way we've always done it is we bring people into an office and they sit there and within these four walls, and then they work from 9 to 5. People were forced to change that because of COVID. And I think the companies that are struggling most right now are perhaps companies that just the nature of what they do makes it hard to adjust. But maybe in professions where there's low risk tolerance, where there's consistency and like, this is just how we always do things, they tend to attract people that maybe like that consistency and are risk averse. And so if your tendency is to be risk averse and to like stability and consistency, adapting to change is probably going to be a little harder for you. But companies that are willing to ask, hey, what are we learning right now? I think that's a really great creativity question. Like, what are we learning about ourselves right now? What are we learning about what our customers need right now, or what our clients need right now? What's working for us right now? Like, what are we doing well? What are some ways we've adapted that we're really proud of, that we want to celebrate? What are some changes we want to make that no matter what changes going forward, we want to keep with us, So I think companies and leaders that are willing to ask questions right now, to mine data from their own people and their own experiences, have the capacity to just accelerate themselves in a way that people that refuse to change will not be able to do, So I think creativity is essential to resilience, and that resilient organizations and teams and leaders you mentioned the brain science stuff, right? Like understand what happens to the brain in the face of change, that the brain doesn't like it, so that they can start to accept it, to move through it. And then say, all right, what's working? What else might we try? What have we not even thought of? What have you wondered about? And then just experiment and iterate and learn.
I mean, that goes back to what we started talking about at the beginning, which is curiosity. And it takes great vulnerability to be curious, because then we have to admit that we don't know the right answer. My work as a veterinarian, I come across different people, like clients and other veterinarians who are very, this is the way it is 100%. And, it's very rare you'll get a vet that says like 100%, this is what it is. Cause you just know there's so many factors, like, well, what else could it be? And I wanted to bring back one of the questions you used in your froyo example, when you said, how would it be no, would it be cool if, is that what it was?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if, yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if, which is a
Mhm.
classic creative problem solving or design thinking question, because instead of saying, how do we make things more fun? You're like, wouldn't it be cool if, or how might we? So that's a really easy tip for people who are trying to start to explore some creative problem solving, is to use those words that Rachel was using. Instead of saying like, how can we have fun? Just say, wouldn't it be cool if? So I wanted to talk about that because it's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for if, so you've had some rough goes of it the last little while. You had some accidents that you've spoken publicly about, so I'm hoping it's okay to share it here. What efforts, habits, or thoughts do you credit for your resilience for getting through that illness at 32, and then you've had multiple car accidents over the past few years, one very serious one. So maybe tell us a bit about like what helped you get through those tough times.
I mean, I would say a bunch of things. I'd say one is that I mentioned this briefly about Spain, but I've always had a sense of agency about me, a sense that I have the capacity to influence things in my environment, to influence my future by the decisions that I make and how I show up. I've always had a pretty strong sense of that, even if what I wanted to do was contrary to what my peers wanted. Like, everyone's doing this. Okay, that's fine. Well, I don't believe in that. I've always been very strongly guided from a principle, and I've always been a very principled person, and have been willing to, if something that I believe is not out of alignment with others, that like I have to live with myself. And so I'm willing to be different for the sake of preserving my integrity. So I think that's one part of it. Another part of it is that after I burned out and got mono 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 5.5, 2016, I don't know, whatever.
What year is it? What decade is it anyway?
In a minute. But the things that got me through that experience, one, were rest. I mean, so I wear this device on my wrist called a Whoop band, that I've had for 3 years now. It's like a part of my body. And it tracks all these different metrics. Like, it tracks my sleep, it tracks heart rate variability, which is linked to immunity and overall recovery and capacity. It gives me a strain score every day. So like, this is my external gauge that really helps me to see, how are you doing? Can you push a little more today, or do you need to back off? So for people that have trouble reading their own body signals, this is like my external little friend that does that. So the Whoop band has been helpful for the past 3 years.
How do you spell it? W-O-O-T?
WHOOP.
Whoop. Okay. Like,
yeah,
whoop.
yeah. So like Whoop, like almost like
chat
there it is. Yeah. So there we go. So they're super awesome.
You know what? Sorry, I want to interrupt, but I can't help but like blurt this out. It's like the Taipei Overachiever's Guide to not achieving. It's like the high achieving, like, relaxation thing.
It's like, how do I relax? By a tool that gives me data and metrics and tells me how to do it. Like this. Like, I'm so like driven by that. I get it does influence me. And it's an accountability device, really. And for me, I know I'm what Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies. I'm an obliger. So like, I know that I do better with external accountability than I do with my own accountability. So external accountability. And then a couple other things that really, really helped me were, I had to set some boundaries at work. Like, I remember emailing my boss, who was our CFO. I'd worked there at that point in some capacity since 2003 when I started interning. So I'd been there for like 14 years, full time for like 10 years. I'd built up a track record of good things. And I got to cash in a little. I was like, look, I can't have meetings before 10 a.m. because I'm exhausted and I need to sleep for like 12 hours a night. I need to cut back how many I was doing cooking demos and workshops and all this stuff at that point. I need an assistant. I bottomed out, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to ask for all these things I haven't been asking for that I really need. So that was part of it, asking for help. And my spiritual community was a huge part of that. We're really involved in a small church near us, and that community checked in on me. They would pray for me. They would message me. They would check in on my husband. They were just really present and really, really there, and really an encouragement. And I had just neglected friendships at the expense of, excelling in my work and doing really well at that. But I really hadn't invested in my friendships in a really meaningful way. Honestly, I had, and I wouldn't like intentionally reach out to a bunch of different people and say, "Hey, how's this going?" or
Mhm.
in on stuff. I realized that I wanted to be more connected to people, and I wanted to let more people into my stuff. And I started sharing when I was struggling more instead of internalizing that, which I had done for so long. And I think also having creative expressions like singing and writing and blogging and doing other things that helped me, movement dance. There's a form of dance called Nia that I would, NIA. It's super fun. It's like
Ooh, I have to check that
yoga.
out.
It's yoga, mixed martial arts, and modern dance is like the combo. Super fun. So I would do that as a way to kind of move through, and I just slept a lot. It was a total recalibration
Mhm.
that I did not ask for, but that I desperately needed.
Mhm.
And the help of holistic health practitioners. I see all integrated medicine doctors, and they got me on supplement regimen that helped me rebound a lot faster than most people do with Epstein-Barr
Mhm.
virus. And I've taken those practices of support, of an enduring sense of hope, of this belief that I'm meant for something and that I'm meant to have messages to deliver, and that I'm not going to be defeated. Like I'm not an easily defeated person. I just have this strong inner sense of perseverance,
Mhm.
to just not give up. And I view these trials as their challenges, and I don't always like them.
Mhm.
But I always believe there is potential for growth and insight and wisdom in them if I'm willing to look for it.
Yeah, there's that expression. I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it's the obstacle is the way,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think
right?
you butchered it.
So,
That's spot on.
is that it? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're a little bit over. I hope you're okay for time because I wanted to try to do something
Oh,
together
yeah.
musically, if that's okay. I got to put my table down because I'm really not very good at the guitar. So this will be me in like you high school. So I'm just gonna put my thing down so I can sit. I've got one of these sit to stand desks. Looks like you
That's
have something like
fine.
that too. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down and we're gonna try, but because of the leg, what you were thinking is like I'll play and then you sing or something.
If you want to, or if you're
I don't
right.
have my capo.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Do you
It's
want okay, well,
It's up to you, or if you want to do a strum. I'm singing the key in D flat is
D
the
flat. I don't know D flat. I know D. I know this one.
yeah, here come yeah. That's you got it. That's good
Okay.
enough.
Okay.
So if you want to just like periodically strum, I know there's a delay, but I can
This is
sing. It can be
this
a
is the
hot mess.
creativity of like failure, right? Okay, I'm gonna strum.
It's totally fun. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and start singing.
Okay.
Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, do 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 do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Nailed it.
Okay, I butchered that. You did a beautiful job.
Perfect. It's
I forgot
good.
my capo, which is the little squeezy thing that
I
goes.
know my husband plays guitar.
Oh,
Yeah.
I should have had him come and do this instead. I was
No,
practicing, but I knew I would. I can't believe I forgot my capo.
it's
That was
great.
beautiful. I just, you know what? And I love that you do that as part of your message to the world to share your singing and share your creativity and to share your perseverance and the pillars you create in your life to support that perseverance because we can't do it alone. And so I think sharing your techniques and your thoughts on that has been super helpful. I'm so glad that Rachel Druckenmiller, that you joined me today to share your wisdom and resilience and your experience. And I hope that we can sing and play guitar IRL sometime.
Yeah, that would be fun. And congrats on your book. That's very, very exciting. And I think creativity, I think we need to have more conversations about creativity because people do, shut themselves off and say that they can't do it. But it's like, think of what is a little thing that at any point in your life made you feel alive, and like do a small version of that. Whether it was painting, like go buy yourself a coloring book, go buy yourself a set of watercolor paints for $5 at Target, like, and get a kid's book. Like
Yeah.
sing by yourself to a song that you love. Like just do you dance, put on a song and shut off the camera and just dance around. I mean, like we were meant, I love Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic.
Yes.
Right?
I
Like,
actually just did a review on my social on that. It's an amazing book. I love that one.
it's so good. And I love what she says about, if you're alive, you're a creative person.
Yes.
Right? Like that line, you and I and everyone we know come from a line of tens of thousands of years of makers. Like it's in your nature to be creative. It's just a matter of letting it out. It's not a matter of, oh, can I be? It's if you already are inherently a creative person. Yeah.
Yeah. I say it's like breathing, right? I mean, you'll
Mhm.
relate to this because of, the wellness. Like everybody breathes, but you can learn how to breathe box breathing or pranayama or a different type of breathing. And it's the same with creativity. Everybody is creative. And whether it's making a meal or a pivot table or anything, we all have creativity in us. And I think we need to stop putting ourselves in that box. Like you had said, going to Spain, this is not something I do.
Right.
We all do creativity, and we all need to do creativity because, hello, robots are taking all of the boring analytical jobs without creativity.
Yes.
So, you're going to need to figure it out.
Agreed. Amen to that. Well said.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and dropping all of those great wisdoms. You can find Rachel on LinkedIn. I've got her LinkedIn here and Instagram, and then also on her website at unmutedlife.com, which is, I just love that name of your brand. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to hear more about your journey and find out where you're speaking next.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me. It was fun.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.